Go to homage.com to get some of the freshest clothes in sports. And don't forget to use the promo code WORSTTAKE at checkout to get 15% off. It's only the middle of May, and I can't wait for the offseason to be over. See, in March and April, the offseason is kind of exciting. I mean, you have free agency and you have the draft. Your team is bringing in new blood and shaking it up. You have new players to be excited about, new coaches that you're breaking in, new systems, new regimes, new things. You got a lot of stuff to talk about. But then the month of May hits, and it hits like a ton of bricks because there's absolutely nothing to talk about. Sometimes it seems like the only talking point there is who or whom didn't show up to a voluntary off-season mini camp. So instead, we fixate over every deal, over every attendance sheet for every practice, and we make a big deal out of things that ultimately won't matter in a month or two. But see, with the Browns on the national radar for the first time in what seems like multiple decades, there's a lot of conversation happening about whether Browns fans are currently too excited right now. And the person who is making the most noise on this front is a dear old friend of the city of Cleveland. Yes, you know who I'm about to say. I'm about to say Colin Cowherd. But does he have a point? Should Browns fans pump the brakes? So the first thing I want to touch on is this ideal that he has seemed to push out, that all Browns fans think the Browns have Super Bowl or bust expectations. You'll see in some of the clips I have to play later on that he clearly has put that burden of expectation on us and on the Browns. And I think that's unfair because that couldn't be further from the truth. A majority of Browns fans, I don't feel, expect the Browns to actually make the Super Bowl this season. I think it's not out the realm of possibility like it's been in past years, but I don't think people are expecting a Super Bowl or bust kind of season this year. And sure, there are Browns fans who have crazier and higher expectations than others, but that doesn't mean that we somehow as a fan base think the Browns are now Super Bowl favorites like Colin Cowherd likes to paint this fan base to be, just to make us look more irrational or just kind of silly. When in reality, most Browns fans are pretty reasonable and realistic with their expectations. I think most Browns fans would be happy with winning at least 10 games, having a home playoff game, and winning a playoff game. I think that's where the expectations are for the Browns, realistically. And I think that's beyond reasonable for a team that has Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry, and an emerging young quarterback in Baker Mayfield. And honestly, when you really think about it and you really think about where you're hearing stuff from, the only people I hear even mentioning the Browns with Super Bowl conversations are the people who can't wait to tear the Browns down when they lose a game or two in the regular season. And well, one person we all know who can't wait to hate is Colin Cowherd.
Well, Colin, a couple easy ones at the Jets and at San Francisco. Really? You ever gone on the road for a Monday night football game? Of course, Cleveland, you haven't, because nobody wanted to put you on Monday night. But now they're going to put you on the road. You're a big attraction. You know what those Monday night football crowds are like? Drunk, loud, lubricated.
Isn't every NFL stadium drunk, loud, and lubricated? You, Colin.
And Adam Gase is a good offensive coach, and so is Kyle Shanahan. They're the two guys, closest friends in the league. They're smart. They trade secrets. All of a sudden now, you're 2-4.
I didn't know that having the 16th and 31st ranked offenses made you an offensive genius. And oh yeah, they're both friends. They're gonna tell each other stuff. Oh my God, automatic loss for the Browns. What was I thinking?
W on Tennessee. Well, let's just examine Tennessee. They finished with a better record than you did last year. Unlike the Browns, who beat one playoff team, 1-5 against playoff teams, only win against Baltimore Joe Flacco, who was later benched. Oh, Tennessee throttled Dallas, humiliated New England, clobbered Philadelphia.
These are excellent points if this game were happening last season.
Well, but we added a lot of new pieces. Oh, so did Tennessee. Adam Humphries was the most expensive slot receiver. Cameron Wake's old, but he'll be a pass rusher. And they upgraded their offensive line, taking a Ram who is now a Tennessee Titan.
Yeah. See, the Browns, they just added a top 5 wide receiver and a top 5 running back and a Pro Bowl caliber defensive end. But the Titans, they overpaid Adam Humphries and signed an offensive lineman that Colin doesn't even know the name of. I don't know how the Browns are going to catch up to that.
They have maybe the smartest and most successful of Bill's coordinators, Mike Vrabel, the former player. My sources tell me Mike Vrabel, of all the New England Belichick guys, of all of them, Vrabel's going to work.
You ever have a take that you have no evidence to back up? Now, don't do something silly like perform actual research and find numbers that support your facts and hypothesis. No. Just haphazardly throw my sources in front of whatever you said, and boom, watch all the clicks come in. Now, while I just pointed out some of the ridiculous lengths he was going to back up his point, I will say that his point has some basis. It is actually a reasonable point that he's making. And that point is that the Tennessee Titans aren't just some kind of automatic win on a schedule. And that's reasonable. That's not a crazy take. I mean, the lengths he went to was kind of silly, but it's a reasonable take. But the thing is, nobody in Cleveland was just writing off the Tennessee Titans. I mean, we felt like we should be favored, and I think that's reasonable, but nobody was just like automatic dub. I mean, I think the fans of the Browns understand that nobody can be written off as an automatic win or loss when this team hasn't played an actual football game together. We have to see what they look like on the actual football field before we can just write off teams. So while I get one of his points, I don't get why he's making the point, unless it's to make us look crazy. So what he's doing is trying to paint us as a different thing than what we actually are. He's trying to get us to believe in his reality and then ridicule us based on what he thinks we think, despite him being completely wrong on what we think and what our expectations are. This man is literally trying to drive Browns fans insane. Colin Cowherd is gaslighting the Cleveland Browns fan base. Which brings us to the next beautiful piece of video art by the artist known as Colin Cowherd. Now, he starts this video like a lot of Colin Cowherd videos are started, with one of those 1 to 2 minute long analogies to explain a concept that is pretty basic and doesn't need an analogy to be explained. For example, in this video, he spends like 2 minutes making an analogy about how making $100,000 a year shouldn't be disappointing, but if you have a rich family that expects you to be better than that, well, then it becomes disappointing. Which is a long-winded, convoluted way of saying happiness is a factor of expectations. That's it. That's all he had to say.
Expectations are everything in life. If you make $100,000, that is double the national average. You are a success in your family. People will pat you on the back. Unless your dad is the CEO of a major company and sent you to multiple prep schools, then you're kind of underachieving. Expectations are everything.
Look at the joy in his face, and he gets a twinkle in his eye as he explains his really basic analogy as if he found gold. I mean, he really does look proud of himself.
And now Cleveland's being elevated to Super Bowl talk. I mean, he has to win the division. Baltimore has lost 4 defensive starters. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they don't have a star running back or a star wide receiver. And Cincinnati's pathetic. Look at the primetime games they play next year. Rams and Seahawks do the Browns. At New England, at the Niners. Oh, this is going to be the most talked about, the most discussed. Baker Mayfield said, I'm dangerous. I feel dangerous. This team's got all sorts of dangerous with it.
See, that was a textbook example of Colin putting his own expectations on the Browns and then acting like the fans were the ones doing it. But it's him. He's the only one ridiculing the Browns for being a Super Bowl contender. An expectation that only he put on the Browns.
Folks, expectations are what create anxiety. Again, you make $100,000, you are doubling the national average. But if your dad put you in prep schools for 6 years and he's a CEO of a major company, $100,000 just won't do.
He is just so proud of that basic analogy. Like, look at that face. That is the face my nephew made when he first learned to count to 10. It's amazing, you know? Now, crappy analogies, bad takes, and gaslighting aside, the comment section to this video is some of the best stuff I've seen on the internet. If you need an example, here's the top comment. Did your first marriage have a lot of expectations? Oh my God. And there's some other gems down there, but I would implore you to check them out yourself. I'll leave a link in the description so you guys can see that beauty of a comment section down there. This guy's acting like the Browns players and the Browns fans are acting like Philly fans did when they assembled the dream team. Like, no, that's not how this situation is at all. Nobody is making overzealous predictions about the Browns. Sure, Odell Beckham said he's trying to turn this team into the new Patriots, but that is a common goal that every NFL team should have, is to become a dynasty eventually, or else why do you play? Now, if you want to talk about expectations being put on somebody that were unfair, I think when OBJ said that Baker Mayfield is Brett Favre, that was a little bit out there. I mean, let's let him play a second year before we call him a Hall of Famer. But other than that, everything has been reasonable. This team does not have a ridiculous nickname yet. They're just a team that is... Now, the point of this video wasn't just to bash Cowherd. The point of this video was to say to Browns fans, no, your expectations are not too high. You don't have to pump the brakes. You don't have to dampen your enthusiasm because some dude on FS1 told you you're aiming too high. Sure, with a team like this, you should probably expect to make the playoffs. You should probably expect to contend for the division. What other team would have this much talent and would expect any less? But for some reason, since this team went 7-8-1 the year before, they can't have expectations. A lot of teams that have went around 500 the year before have had playoff expectations the year after. But for some reason, the Browns, despite adding a bunch of Pro Bowlers, somehow get ridiculed for having higher expectations than they had last year. I don't get it. And even if this team did not add all of the Pro Bowlers they added in free agency, they would still have playoff expectations. They would still have expectations to compete in the division. So why, when this team has added elite talent to an already budding young core, should we tamper our expectations when they never were crazy to begin with? So Browns fans, don't listen to the noise. Don't talk yourself into pessimism because some douchebag on Fox Sports 1 told you to. No. Be excited. Be happy, and look forward to proving them wrong on Sunday nights, Monday nights, Sunday afternoons, and Thursday nights, because that's what this team is going to do. So let's see what they're saying come December. And if the Browns disappoint this year, well, I'm just going to get trolled to oblivion, and I'm going to have to be okay with it. But that is going to be it for this episode of Worst Take. Thank you guys for watching to the end. If you could, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and ding that notification bell. And let me know in the comment section down below what your realistic expectations are for the Browns season. Do you think they're too high? Do you think they're too low? Are you shooting for the moon? Are you just shooting to stay alive? Let's see what you have to say in the comment section down below. And if you have a $1 or $2 to spare, please consider becoming a patron and having your name featured on this nice little ticking bar that I have at the bottom of the screen. But again, guys, thank you for watching. Have a great day and have a good night.